Well, hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Meg, and if you're new here, I'm so glad that you decided to click on this video. This is super impromptu and not something that I had planned or even have notes for, except for just some Bible verses that I've been pondering. And I wanted to be really raw with you guys because I've been hearing more and more from friends that I have that are in similar season of life and just people on social media that there is this challenge of, do I pursue my career or do I start having kids? Can I do both? And when you're really young in your 20s, I feel like you hear more of, no, like you're young, you should, do everything you want to do, like travel, go to school and whatnot. And then later on in your 30s, then that's the time to start having kids. And I definitely think that everyone's journey is different, so this video is not going to be me telling you what to do or be telling you one way is right or one way is wrong. I'm just going to be letting you in on things that I've struggled with growing up as a woman in this generation where it's kind of promoted to become sort of like a boss babe or climb the ladder of success as a woman. While there's nothing wrong with having goals or being someone who wants to achieve things, I think that it can really hold women back and is holding us back as a society from also embracing the gift of children. For a while, I really saw children as a burden, and I didn't realize that I was viewing children as a burden until recently when I started getting really introspective and kind of asking myself, like, why don't I want to have kids now? Not that I should have kids now, but what is it that's keeping me? Like, what is the root cause of this? I found myself in this place of, I got accepted into grad school and I've found this career that I really enjoy doing and I could see myself doing for the long term. But I also kind of had this desire and this growing just feeling of, I do want to be a mom. And I feel like I've kind of been suppressing that in a way because I felt like I've had to achieve the next thing. And what do you do after you have a career? Well, you go to grad school or you do the next thing to get promotion or to grow in whatever it is you're doing. And I think that growth is amazing, and I'm not bashing anyone for pursuing what they feel like they were called to do, but I feel like one of the underlying reasons I felt to pursue grad school was a fear of money, and we have enough. The Lord has provided for us. So it wasn't that my husband was providing, it was just deep down I felt this weight and this responsibility as a wife to almost be an equal provider as my husband. And I know that there's no shame if I were to provide more than my husband, if I were to bring less than my husband as far as finances goes. But I felt this overwhelming sense of if I were to have a kid now, that would set me back. And I know that having a kid would probably make me go to school later on in life, but I also started to think why couldn't I do both? And why do we think as a society that having children is not a worthwhile endeavor, or that we put school at a higher level than we do having a family? And the more I was really thinking about this, the more I just felt impressed on my heart that the most important thing for me to do as a wife and as a future mom is to pray and to listen. Our culture undervalues prayer, and I think in the Christian community there's so much Christianese and little mottos around prayer, but the way that you can tell that someone lives a prayer-filled life is if their life is a peace-filled life and their life is producing peace. And I think there's a lot of Christians out there, I've fallen into the same boat where we're oh, we'll pray for you, we'll pray about that. But we don't really intentionally sit down and intercede and see what the word has to say and see what the Lord is leading us to pray on behalf of these things. And so I came across this verse that is from Ezekiel, and it's in Ezekiel 22:30, and it says, I looked for someone who might rebuild the wall of righteousness that guards the land. I searched for someone to stand in the gap in the wall so I wouldn't have to destroy the land, but I found no one. That hit me really hard because not that there's no one praying out there right now, but it was kind of the Lord just looking at me directly in the eye and just saying, like, are you going to stand in the gap? Like, will there be anyone to stand in the gap for your family? As a wife, like, I carry that responsibility to help my husband according to scripture. It's not that my husband doesn't pray or that he isn't responsible to pray either, but I just felt convicted, like I have not been praying for my husband or praying for my family the way that I need to. And that is my first call. And if there's anything that's putting distance in between me and God, then I need to get to the bottom of it, and I need to intercede in prayer, because I don't want there to be any hindrance. And I want the Lord to be able to use me in my husband's life and in the life of our family as well. So how does that tie into a career versus having kids, or can you do both? And I think that it ultimately comes down to the Lord's peace. And we hear that so much, but it's like the only way that we can know if we have peace on something is to be praying. And I love something that our associate pastor actually said this morning. And he said, prayer is the exit and the bridge to the place of peace. I'm gonna read that again. Prayer is the exit and the bridge to the place of peace. And just going back to the Bible verse I mentioned, it is like standing in the gap. Paul talks in his letters that we are to pray and petition about all things, that we shouldn't be worried, that we shouldn't be anxious of the future, and that we shouldn't make decisions based off of a fear of not being enough or a fear of not making enough, but a fear of the Lord. And when we stand before the Lord, when we're accountable to Him, are we going to say, oh, I got this degree and I did this and I did this because this seemed like a worthwhile endeavor? Or are we going to stand before the Lord and say that we had peace and that we knew Him? It's kind of like going back to Mary and Martha, how Martha was so busy doing all these things, achieving all these things for Jesus, because she did care about Jesus. At the end of the day, like, it was coming from a place of care, but she wasn't really taking the time to sit and to listen and to hear what Jesus actually had to say. I would just encourage you, wherever you are in your decision-making process, to pray, to seek the Lord, and to take this seriously. This is something that I'm speaking to myself too. I don't want to be flippant about prayer anymore. I just want to have at the forefront of my mind always that children are a blessing from the Lord, and if we were to have a baby now, or if we were to have a baby later, that it would be a blessing and that it would be the right time. Matthew 18:10, it says, "See that you do not despise these little ones." Jesus was referring to the children. "For I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father in heaven." And it's like when we are looking at a child, we literally get the opportunity when we raise a kid of knowing more of God's heart for us and understanding His love on a deeper level. Not to say that God has called everybody to be a biological mother. You know, I know some people have trouble having children, and God forbid that would happen to us, or some people feel called to adopt. But however it is that you find yourself mothering in your life, whether it is through your children or it's just like mentoring and being kind of a mother figure that way, children are a gift and they are a blessing and they are a reward, like it says in Psalms 127, where it says that children are a heritage of the Lord and that they're the fruit of the womb, a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate. So I just want to remove that like shame culture of like having kids too early like sets you back and you'll never be able to pursue things you want to do in the future. I think that having kids almost empowers you in a way to really understand what's important, and also helps you get more clarity in the future on like if you did want to go back to school, like, because you can always do school. I have plenty of friends. I actually have two moms off the top of my head that one just finished grad school and one is doing grad school, and they both have like multiple kids and they're doing it just fine because because they have been seeking the Lord through this, and they've been moving with the Lord's peace and going through the doors that the Lord has opened and not necessarily the doors that they have tried to force open. So that's really all that I wanted to share with you guys, just some food for thought, and this helps me process too my own journey. But just to remember that there is no shame if you decide to have kids now, or if you do decide the Lord is telling you to wait, but just let your motivation not be one of fear, but let it be motivated out of obedience to the Lord and what He is calling you to do. I know this maybe was a little bit heavier of a topic and not as light as some of my other videos, but I think nonetheless really important to talk about, and I would love to hear your thoughts as well below. Like, if you found any verses, I really want to do a study on children and like children in the Bible and all of that. I think it would be really cool. So if you have anything you've been feeling like the Lord has been speaking to you in your journey, please comment below or comment any verses that come to your mind as you're watching this, and I will definitely try to respond. I appreciate all the feedback on the other videos I've posted, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching.